Merci beaucoup, Roland. So any questions in English or in French? And we'll start with Agence France Presse.
Oui, bonjour colonel, Pascal Manet de l'agence France Presse. Est-ce que vous pourriez répéter s'il vous plaît les chiffres que vous avez donnés, les pourcentages et le nombre de missions humanitaires? Et ensuite, me répéter aussi que l'aéroport de Tripoli ne servait plus depuis des semaines ou des mois au contrôle aérien, simplement pour que les choses soient bien claires. Ensuite, une seule petite question. Est-ce que l'OTAN peut confirmer que Brega a été pris par les rebelles? J'ai du mal à croire que l'OTAN ne soit pas informée de la véracité ou pas des affirmations des deux bords sur le fait que Brega a été pris ou pas. Merci.
D'accord. Donc, spécifiquement sur les chiffres liés aux missions humanitaires, du point de vue aérien, nos dossiers indiquent qu'il y a eu un total de 528 vols transportant de l'aide humanitaire qui ont atterri en Libye, dont le dernier, à ma connaissance, s'est produit hier à Tripoli, 6 ou 7 heures après que nous ayons frappé une antenne qui servait à des fins militaires à l'aéroport de Tripoli. Si on ajoute à ça les autres moyens, on a aussi 123 arrivages par mer qui ont été notés depuis le début de la mission en Libye, ce qui représente globalement, si on prend le côté air et mer ensemble, une augmentation substantielle du trafic en termes d'aide humanitaire qui représente environ 15 depuis seulement au cours du dernier mois, en fait. Il n'y a absolument aucune limitation, et j'insiste là-dessus, absolument aucune limitation à l'arrivée d'aide humanitaire en Libye. En fait, avec nos moyens sophistiqués, nous avons la possibilité de coordonner et aussi d'éviter tout conflit par rapport au trafic aérien ou maritime. Quant à Brega, nous sommes tout à fait conscients de différentes allégations de part et d'autre sur l'évolution tactique sur le terrain. Nous suivons ceci de près, évidemment. Ce n'est pas à moi de commenter les résultats de ces actions. L'action de l'OTAN se limite à notre mandat, c'est-à-dire de protéger la population civile pour s'assurer qu'elle ne subisse aucune attaque et pour s'assurer aussi qu'elle ne soit pas menacée. Comme vous le savez, la situation à Brega est très fluide, elle est changeante et nous allons suivre la situation de près au cours des prochains jours.
James.
Yes, Brooks Signer, Janes Defense. Excuse me. Just a small technical question on this air tower. If it was a key antenna site, I assume there must be other backup antenna for civilian landing purposes. If not, how are these aircraft being guided? Are you using the AWACS to guide them into the Tripoli airport, or what? Thank you.
Okay. Actually, that antenna is not required to allow the landing of aircraft because its function was to track the air traffic from a distance. So it's not to provide landing assistance at all. You raise an important point, however, in terms of backups. It is obvious that there's always the possibilities that some specific targets that we may engage could eventually be repaired. And this is the reason why we constantly monitor with sophisticated intelligence airborne means the situation and sometimes we have to revisit specific military targets to ensure that they are not repaired or reactivated. Does it answer to your question?
I think it does. AP, can you, Pascal, could you possibly just turn that off? Merci.
Yes, Colonel Slobolekic from the Associated Press. I used to be a commercial pilot then. I have to say I'm surprised to find out that air traffic control doesn't use radars to guide planes and to clear them for landing. It's, as far as I know, it's a routine procedure. especially when there are several planes in holding pattern over the airport and in conditions of low visibility, to use the radar to keep a safe distance between the planes, and both horizontally and vertically, and to clear them for the final approach. So I have to say I'm very surprised that you would say that the radar isn't necessary. I don't know any air traffic controller who would agree with you.
Thank you for your question. The Tripoli airport still has the ability to control the landing of aircrafts. So I will not go into the details of that specific target, but I could assure you that air traffic, especially the air traffic that is authorized and legitimate, will in no way be preventing from landing in Tripoli as a result of that engagement. And as I mentioned, no later than yesterday, just a few hours after that target was hit, there was a successful, of course, and safe landing of a humanitarian aid aircraft.
Answer?
Yes, hi. My question is about an inquiry that was open in Italy about a big storage of weapons that just disappeared from La Maddalena the last May. The government declared that this matter is classified, but there is a high suspect that the weapons were delivered to the rebels in Libya. Consider that the weapons were confiscated by NATO in 1994. Do you know where they were delivered, or at least can you say to me if these weapons were still under the NATO responsibility or not? Thanks.
I'm sorry, this question is too specific for me to be able to provide you with an answer. I would ask you that you contact us through our media relation people, and we'll look into it.
Marisa, yeah, we've seen some press reports. I haven't seen the specifics of those press reports, but from all I've seen, it looks like a matter for the Italian authorities. NPR?
Terry Schultz with National Public Radio and Global Post. A quick question on the antenna. If it was important for the rebels and not important for NATO, why didn't you take it out already? 4 months in, I realize it takes some time to gather your data on and to make sure that this is a valid target, but why would you have left it standing for 4 months? And another question, I just wanted to check on the status of what coordination there is or is not with the rebels. As you're aware, there is a lot of criticism with this latest assault on Brega that NATO airstrikes were being performed in coordination with rebels to soften the ground for their approach to Brega. And some rebels are complaining of poor coordination with NATO, which indicates there's some level. Just checking on that. Thanks.
Okay. Your first questions on the number of targets. We are engaging thousands of targets. If you look at the daily updates, the total 5,902 sorties, which basically engaged 3,025 targets. And of course, we're not taking all these targets at the same time. I would like to stress also that before engaging a target, NATO wants to make sure that this specific target, first, is for a military use, and second, and very, very important, that taking this target will not endanger the civilian population. So basically, there's a lot of intelligence work that needs to be done before we engage indiscriminately a given specific target. In that specific case, we had clear indication that it was being used for perceiving and tracking our action. And unfortunately, I could not go into the details, but we had the certainty of its military use, and this is why we took that specific target. With respect to the alleged coordination with opposition forces in the area of Brega, we do not, NATO does not, as direct coordination with opposition forces or rebel forces in Brega. We don't have direct contact with them, and we follow the situation through allied information sources that is in the area.
On the issue of targets, Terry, I can tell you that the latest update is we've damaged or destroyed over 3,000 targets since the start of this operation. These are legitimate military targets, and they include over 350 radar systems, SAM missiles, and site storage. They also include approximately 190 command and control facilities and a stunning over 850 ammunition facilities, which shows you what large quantities of ammunition the Gaddafi regime has been accumulating in the last 40 years. I think, I know we have more questions here. I'd like to go to Naples to see if there are any other questions there, and then we'll come back to Brussels. Roland?
No questions from Naples.
Very good. So we can go to the Kuwaiti news agency.
Nawab Khan from the Kuwait news agency, Kuna. Colonel, can you tell us what is exactly the situation in Brega? Has it fallen in the hands of the anti-Gaddafi forces?
The situation in Brega is very fluid. We are tracking some actions in and around Brega, and this evolves over the days. Certainly, globally as a region, the situation is still very volatile, and it would be premature for us to come with a verdict with respect to the situation there. So this will certainly be something we'll monitor closely in the coming days. I want to stress also that, as a spokesperson for NATO here, my role is not to provide operational updates for either pro-Gaddafi or anti-Gaddafi forces within Libya.
Wall Street Journal.
One, as Stephen Phillips from the Wall Street Journal. You said earlier that it was essential, a message coming out of Istanbul, it was essential for all the international community to speak with one voice. Over the last week or so, there have been a number of voices coming out, including from NATO members, about the wisdom of, suggesting that the opposition should negotiate with the government, and other suggestions that perhaps Gaddafi can remain in the country, or if he steps down. What is the NATO's position here? Can Gaddafi step down and remain in the country? Does he have to leave the country and submit himself to the International Criminal Court, or is this just a matter for the Libyan people to sort out among themselves, and really the international community has no say in it?
Stephen, as we've said, it is for the Libyan people to determine the future of Libya. For NATO, what is clear is the mandate under United Nations Security Council resolutions 1970 and 1973, and especially under 1973, the protection of civilians against attacks and the threat of attacks. And that is the mandate for the military operation that we are conducting. The military goals of this operation are also clear, and they were set back in April by NATO foreign ministers in Berlin, and they are an end to all attacks against civilians, the withdrawal of all regime forces and mercenaries back to barracks and bases, and full and unhindered access to humanitarian aid. Having said that, NATO is doing its job on the military track. It is for others, in particular the United Nations and the contact group, to take the lead on the political track. And it's clear that there has to be a political solution ultimately, because this is not the sort of conflict to which there can ever be a military solution only. So NATO fully supports all initiatives towards that goal, and NATO is part of the contact group, and that was the message that the Secretary General took to Istanbul last week. We welcome the fact that there is a very clear message, and that has been a consistently clear message from the contact group: Gaddafi has to go. That message was also endorsed by NATO foreign ministers back in April, and that message stays the same. James, follow-up?
Yes, I want to follow up to the missile question, particularly the one asked by our colleague, which was a very interesting one. And that was, these missiles, if they were confiscated by NATO decades ago, fair enough. But where were they stored? And have they been stored up until their disappearance on a NATO or NATO-designated facility? Yes or no? If they weren't, problem resolved. It's for the Italian government. If they were, problem for NATO. Thank you.
Brooks. As I said, I haven't seen the details of those reports. From what I've seen, this is clearly a matter for the Italian authorities. Any other questions, either here or in Naples?
No questions from Naples.
Okay. Thank you very much, Roland. Merci beaucoup.